Cartoons are usually fun and entertaining, but not every show works well. Some have made fans so angry or disappointed that they have become the most hated shows ever. Whether it's bad animation, annoying characters, or just terrible writing, these shows didn't sit well with viewers. Today, we're going through a list of cartoon shows that got a lot of hate for all the wrong reasons. And believe me, the last one might just make you think, what the F? Caillou. What if I told you there's a cartoon show so infamous that it's been canceled by the public broadcasting system? Caillou has built up a reputation as one of the most annoying cartoon shows to ever hit TV. It started back in 1995 as a Canadian kids show, and somehow ended up being played in homes all over the world. On the outside, it looked sweet and calm, with soft colors and gentle voices, but for a lot of parents, it was anything but relaxing.
Daddy, don't shoot Caillou! He's having a heart attack!
Get out of the f***ing way, I have a clear shot!
The biggest problem was Caillou himself. He spends most of the episodes whining, throwing tantrums, and getting whatever he wants without any real consequences. Parents felt like the show encouraged bad behavior instead of teaching anything helpful. What was meant to be educational just came off like 20 minutes of nonstop complaining. Over time, Caillou became a regular target in parenting threads and YouTube rants. People could not believe how frustrating one little cartoon kid could be. Instead of being a fun learning show, it turned into something a lot of families actively avoided. Powerpuff Girls Reboot. And if we're talking about debates, the Powerpuff Girls reboot is a perfect example of how not to bring back a classic. When it dropped, fans weren't just disappointed, they were straight up mad. The animation looked different, the vibe felt off, and one of the biggest complaints was that the original voice cast was replaced. Tara Strong, who originally voiced Bubbles, even called the decision disrespectful on social media. The show tried to bring back the magic of the original, but completely missed the mark. The humor felt flat, the storylines were dull, and the energy that made the show so fun was just not there. On top of that, iconic villains like Princess, him, and Mojo Jojo barely even showed up. Those characters were a huge part of what made the original series work, so ignoring them felt like a slap to longtime fans. People also said the colors were too bright and the action was watered down. All of it added up to a reboot that felt completely empty and forced. Instead of feeling like a fresh update, it came off like a cheap imitation. And that's why it ended up getting so much hate online. Planet Sheen. But what happens when you take a lovable side character and turn him into the star of his own chaotic series? Planet Sheen tried to spin off a popular side character from Jimmy Neutron into his own show, but it didn't go over well. Sheen was fun in small doses, but as a lead, his nonstop energy quickly wore people out. The show ditched the rest of the Jimmy Neutron cast and the setting, which left fans feeling disconnected right from the start. So instead of the smart, witty humor that Jimmy Neutron was known for, Planet Sheen leaned hard into slapstick and loud gags. A lot of viewers found the show overstimulating and chaotic, with too much yelling and not enough substance. What was once a funny side character turned into a nonstop noise machine. And it wore off fast. For many fans, the shift in tone and the lack of familiar faces made it feel like a completely different show. It just didn't live up to the standards set by Jimmy Neutron, and that's why it landed on so many people's disliked lists. The Nut Shack.
It's the Nut Shack!
Yet I bet you didn't know that it's possible for a show to be so memeable but not be funny. The Nut Shack is one of those shows that became a meme online, but not for the right reasons. It's often brought up for how bad it is, with low-budget animation, bland colors, and characters that just rubbed people the wrong way. At the center of it is Phil, a loud and obnoxious character who's tough to watch for more than a few minutes.
And I hate that crap. Enjoy that, old man.
The humor is what really pushed people away. It leaned heavily on shock value, with jokes that just weren't funny and were also offensive.
All you got is that game you play by yourself in a banjo. When you think no one is knowing, we know.
Instead of being edgy in a clever way, it came off as cringy and try-hard. The show also got called out for how it handled representation. It tried to include a diverse cast, but the execution was messy and ended up offending a lot of viewers. One character in particular, Cherry Pie, a Vietnamese trans woman,
I like him. He's like not too sure if he's coming or going.
Beat it, you freak. We're busy.
was seen as a harmful stereotype, and that drew serious backlash, especially these days. Velma. But if you thought the Nut Shack was the worst, then you have no idea what's coming your way because this show was straight up offensive for everyone. And I mean everyone. It also made fans extremely angry. Velma had people mad right out the gate. The writing was all over the place and fans weren't feeling it at all. It tried to do something new with the Scooby-Doo crew, but most people felt like it just completely missed the point. This time around, Velma's the main character, doing detective work and trying to get a date for the Crystal Cove Fog Festival. Daphne is off figuring out her love life too. Sounds fine, but the characters just didn't feel like themselves. Velma came off as super toxic, which was weird, since she's usually the smart, supportive one that's holding everything together. And then there's the biggest issue. Scooby is not even in it. A Scooby-Doo show without Scooby-Doo just felt off, and it left a weird, empty vibe. Mix all that with the cringy writing and a tone that just didn't match the original at all, and it is no surprise that fans were done with it pretty fast. Hi, Guardian Spice. Next up, we're going to talk about a show that you might not have even heard of before. Hi Guardian Spice is one of those shows that caused a ton of drama before it even came out. A lot of people were expecting anime since it was part of Crunchyroll's original lineup, but what they got felt more like a Western cartoon.
Speak from your deep heart's core.
Blah, blah. Here's the deal. Write some lousy vows and yell what you wrote into that hole over there.
That alone had fans feeling misled, and it only went downhill from there. The show ended up stuck in this weird spot, too intense for little kids, but way too simple for older viewers. On top of that, people started comparing it to other magic school stories like Harry Potter and Little Witch Academia, saying that it felt like a lazy copy. The characters didn't really stand out, and the story didn't bring anything new to the table. Then things really blew up when some of the creators made comments online that rubbed a lot of viewers the wrong way. That led to a ton of backlash and even boycotts. Between the bad marketing, the messy tone, and the drama outside the show itself, Hi Guardian Spice ended up being one of those series that just could not catch a break. Shaggy and Scooby-Doo.
Shaggy, Scooby-Doo, get a clue!
You would think a show starring Shaggy and Scooby would be a hit, but this reboot left fans heartbroken, and here's why. This time, it left fans deeply disappointed. Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue felt nothing like the classic Scooby-Doo that people grew up with, and that change didn't sit well. The animation style was way different. It looked more modern, but in a way that lost the charm of the original. The characters just didn't feel the same, and the new look just made the whole thing feel off. On top of that, the voice acting was kinda weird too. Shaggy didn't sound like himself, and for a lot of fans it felt like watching a weird knockoff version of the character. Then there was the storyline. Instead of solving spooky mysteries, the show focused on over-the-top villains and goofy action, which just felt totally out of place. The classic mystery vibe was gone, and with all the changes piled on, fans just couldn't get into it.
Ow! Ow!
Finished?
Ow! Yes.
It was supposed to be fun, but ended up feeling like a forgettable version of something way better. Teen Titans Go! After Shaggy and Scooby-Doo, it's time to introduce about a cartoon show that's been decent for some, and yet sparks a surprising amount of hate from others. People who grew up with the original Teen Titans were hit with a version that felt so far off from the first series and what it was. The characters used to be serious, heroic, and actually had depth. In the reboot, they came off as goofy, selfish, and just plain weird. Robin went from being a focused leader to acting like a control freak. Raven, who used to be mysterious and cool, turned into a sarcastic jokester. The whole team felt like a cartoonified version of themselves, and for fans who loved the original, that was hard to watch. Most of the show leaned into random humor and silly gags,
You know that,
Never mind.
which just felt like a complete shift from the action-packed stories that people were used to. Some even felt like it was mocking the original show by poking fun at emotional or serious moments, and that's why Teen Titans Go got so much hate. It just didn't feel like the show that people remembered and loved. Breadwinners. Moving on, Breadwinners is one of those shows that pretty much annoyed everyone right out of the gate. It was packed with loud toilet humor, endless booty jokes, and non-stop shouting. For a lot of viewers, it felt like 11 minutes of pure chaos with no real payoff.
To mention the greatest day of my life!
The two main characters, Sway Sway and Badooz, were hyperactive to the point of being exhausting. Their constant yelling and over-the-top energy made it tough to sit through an episode. On top of that, the animation looked clunky and cheap, which didn't help the overall experience. The plots were weak, the jokes felt repetitive, and there wasn't much of a story to follow. The show relied way too heavily on one-liner gags and gross-out humor, and after a while it just became old. With everything feeling rushed, loud, and kinda pointless, Breadwinners quickly became one of those shows that people couldn't wait to forget. The Problem Solvers. Lastly, there's a cartoon show that is hated for completely different and unique reasons. This show literally assaulted its viewers with way too many flashy animations. The colors were insanely bright, the screen was packed with weird shapes flying around, and everything moved so fast that it was hard to even focus on what was happening. Watching it felt more like trying to survive an epilepsy speedrun than enjoying a cartoon. But the wild visuals weren't the only issue. The story barely made sense, and the jokes seemed super random without any real punchline. The characters acted in strange ways that didn't even seem to have any purpose, which just made the whole thing even more confusing. With all the flashing colors, bizarre sound effects, and a plot that went nowhere, The Problem Solvers ended up being more frustrating than fun. It's no surprise it ended up on so many worst cartoons lists. Just look at it. And with that, we are wrapping up our list of the most hated cartoon shows ever. As always though, do let us know if you believe that any cartoon should have made it into this list. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with your friends. See you next time!